that's fighting talk from the Prime Minister.
It is fighting talk from the Prime Minister, and I think important words. But really, I think what we need at the moment is more action rather than more discussion. I think what people really need to see right now is change. So I think it really has to be accompanied by some pretty instant changes so people can feel the difference that Labour does make in government.
Well, you might say that, the party conference is the place for words. That's all you can do. You can't put things into action at the conference. You've got to say what you're going to do. You've got to outline what you're going to do. You've got to climb on the soapbox and tap that dais and bang the old, tub thump and all that kind of thing. That's what it's for, isn't it? So, you can't put anything into action at the conference. But what kind of action do you think would make the difference?
Actually, I think you can put things into action pretty swiftly. I think lots of policies have been announced at conferences before. I think, for one example, scrapping the two-child limit is something that Labour could do today and something that we should have done on day one of a Labour government. I think it's something that's widely agreed that would lift hundreds of thousands of children and families out of poverty. And it's something that we could do today that would massively improve people's lives.
What does it make you think when the Prime Minister says we need to devote every ounce of energy to fighting Reform UK? Because there are lots of other people thinking, hang on, wait a minute, I need your energy to do all sorts of things to help me and my family, my business, my life, our schools, our hospitals, the potholes, all the things I care about. I don't need you to be focusing entirely 100% every ounce of your energy on Reform UK.
I mean, I think the polling the other day that showed just how well Reform would do should be a wake-up call to everyone, really. I think the problem that we've had with this government so far is that we have been too reactive. We've been following what Reform are doing and the rise of Reform, and we haven't been so clearly setting out, as we should have been, what our vision for change is and actually bringing about the policy changes that we need to see.
Except you have been very clearly setting it out, haven't you? You said, for example, that you're going to withdraw and withhold the winter fuel allowance from a great percentage of pensioners. Then you rode back on it. You talked about PIP, that allowance, and taking it away from people with disabilities. Eventually, you rode back on it. I mean, you have been pretty trenchant and adamant about what you want to do, but you haven't always done it. You've often vacillated and then gone back on whatever it was that you announced with great pomp and circumstance you were about to do.
I would agree. I think we haven't been clear enough about what we are about. And I think when people voted for change, which they did, when Labour had a clear mandate for change, these aren't things that people associate with a Labour government. Not cutting the winter fuel allowance, not cutting disabled people's benefits. And I think there are things that are coming in that can make a real difference to people's lives. So the Employment Rights Bill that's coming, the Tim's review of personal independence payment, and further nationalisation of railway services. But people are only really going to see and feel the differences if they're approached with boldness. So I think the polling the other day, conference now, is the opportunity for us to say, this is really clearly what we're about and we are going to act swiftly, because we've had just over a year now since Labour was elected. And I really think that a lot of people were understanding. We had 14 years of Conservatives trashing the country effectively. So people understood that it was going to take some time to fix things.
Yes, but I wonder if everyone's had enough of that as an explanation stroke excuse. I mean, we all know that. We all know that the Tories were in power for a long time. We all remember how long it was. We've heard a great deal about that. And I don't know whether that's playing well to the gallery now, whether everyone's just absolutely sick of it.
I think patience is wearing thin. And I think the way that we can turn things around is to act swiftly. And it's not more discussion, it's not more words. It's coming out with the policies that people understand as Labour policies, getting back to our roots, taxing people who have the broadest shoulders at the very top.
As if they stayed around to be taxed. You know, how many of people at what you call the very top have already quit this country? I mean, we've got statistics on that. How many of the very rich or the super rich or the people with kind of oligarch-style money, how many of them have already left knowing that they don't want to stay and be sitting targets? One of the things about very rich people is they have flexibility. They don't have to sit tight and take whatever punishment you mete out to them. They can just get their private jets and fly away, and they are.
We could endlessly speculate about how many people might leave, but
many have already left. We can produce the figures in a heartbeat. Let me ask you this: Keir Starmer to warn Labour that battle with Reform is fight for the soul of the nation. Do you think Labour has the soul of the nation?
I think Labour principles of equality and fairness and people living decent lives, I think that is what we represent as Britain. I think we just need to have the policies to back that up.
I'll just give you the figures about how many very rich people are leaving. So in 2023, the UK lost 4,200 millionaires. In 2024, the number rose sharply. Net loss, 10,800 millionaires. For 2025, forecast data projects the UK will lose about 16,500 millionaires. I don't know how many there are, do you? But they seem to be ebbing away pretty quickly.
We're still an incredibly wealthy country with a lot of wealth that we can redistribute. We're talking about taxing people at the very, very top, taxing corporations. I think that's something that Labour actually really needs to get back to its roots on.
All right, thank you so much for joining me. That's Ellen Morrison-Smith. Let me go now to Maxwell Harrison, Reform UK Kent County Councillor for Sheppey. Hi, Maxwell. Thanks for joining me.
Good afternoon, Vanessa. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. So Keir Starmer really does, posit this as a deadly battle between Labour and Reform. It really is a proper battle cry. He talks about fighting. He talks about, being on the right side of history. He talks about focusing every ounce of energy on vanquishing Reform UK. Is Reform UK ready to take it and withstand the onslaught?
Well, if you believe the latest opinion polls, yes. I mean, I've said repeatedly, this is now beyond the battle for number 10. This is about the battle for Britain. And our argument is very strong. We believe that Labour are ripping up the soul of our country when it comes to fair play, free speech, the social contract. And it's our job as an alternative opposition to ensure that we restore that. That's why Britons are crying out for an alternative in British politics. It's why we're doing very well in the polls. And the most recent YouGov poll showing we would win 300 seats plus, and Labour would lose over 200. So, we're up for the challenge, we're up for the fight.
What's your response to these lines uttered by the Prime Minister? He says, this is a real opportunity for us to make our argument about patriotic national renewal, to own patriotism, to define it for what it is. History will not forgive us if we do not use every ounce of our energy to fight reform. There is an enemy. There is a project which is detrimental to our country. It actually goes against the grain of our history. It's right there in plain sight in front of us. We have to win this battle. Does Reform's philosophy go against the grain of our city? Are you an enemy? Are you going to be on the wrong side of history? Are you the nasty party to the power of a couple of billion?
Of course we're not. But this is desperate language from a desperate Prime Minister. Going into conference, Starmer should be talking about the success and the prosperity he's brought about in his term as Prime Minister, but he's having to try and restore the trust and confidence of the members, of the backbenchers, because simply, if you look at the track record, we have a £30 billion black hole ahead of our budget come November. Over 31,000 illegal immigrants have broken into our country. Unemployment's up to 4.7%. The list goes on and on, Vanessa, of all the failures of this government. That's the problem. That's why there is this talk about someone like Andy Burnham replacing Keir Starmer, because anyone who understands politics realises going into next May's elections, whether it's the Senedd or the Holyrood, we are going to do very well indeed. And that is why this government is in crisis.
What do you think is Reform UK's trump card? What have you got that's got you 10 points ahead in the polls? Because it's not an infrastructure, it's not many MPs, it's not any kind of sort of established structure that we can all see. So what is it? What have you got? What have you got going on?
I think it's because voters can see that we mean what we say. Let's look at Kent County Council. We promised to reduce the debt. This week alone, we've reduced our debt at Kent County Council by £50 million.
How did you do that? How did you do it? What did you do?
We paid off, sorry, my apologies. We paid off long-standing loans. So, of course, when we went into Kent County Council, we had £740 million in debt. Just by doing this one move, it will shave off, by end of this financial year, the £15 million of debt.
Where did you get the money to pay off the outstanding loans or the long-standing loans?
Thankfully, because of the gilt situation in the market. So it's one thing we maybe can thank Mr Starmer for. But, again, if you talk about our pledges back in May, we said we'd stand up against net zero. By ensuring that we put that point across, we're going to save £39 million across the next 4 years by stopping all the wasteful spending and the transition. Get this right: the transition from petrol to electric cars. That's £7 million which we've saved. So we said what we're going to do. British people like it, and we've got someone like Nigel Farage who's charismatic, who's principled, who's strong with conviction, and that's what voters like.